You're watching E.T.N. Entertainment-related new, entertainment-related discussion. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do our review for Luke Cage Season 2. Yes, and Luke Cage, as many of you know, if you've been on the channel for a while, my favorite Netflix series so far of the Marvel series. Very close with like Daredevil, and but there's just a lot of things I like about Luke Cage, the series overall, that just makes it my favorite. One of the things being the music, soundtrack is just great. I like the characters and the environment, and the setting is just fantastic. It's just one of my favorite Marvel series, and we finally get season 2, and this I thought overall was a good season. I really did think it was a good season. It's surprising to me because as I looked at some of the reviews online and things like that, you notice that a lot of the reviews that came in were pretty, like, I read some good ones, and then I read a lot of bad reviews. There was really, at least from what I saw, there didn't seem to be too many up there in the middle. Even IGN, who I go to a lot to look at their reviews and see what they tend to be, late, especially in the last year or so, very swingy on their reviews of some things, either high praise or very low praise, not too much in the middle. And they actually gave season 2 of Luke Cage a 4.5, which I thought was pretty shocking, because even if you didn't like the season, I do not think, in my opinion, 4.5 is an accurate review for the show. But again, that's all opinions. That's my opinion. That's their opinion, and that's only one person's opinion. It's not like the websites sit in a big round table and everybody agrees that it's a 4.5. Just that the person they happen to chose to make the review thought it was a 4.5, and that's fine. But I thought, I thought the season was really good. Now, I do say that obviously the show still misses Cottonmouth. I still think that they're probably looking back now and wishing that they did not get rid of him so soon. But that doesn't mean these villains this season were bad. I mean, Mariah, played by Alfre Woodward, I thought she was fantastic. And Bushmaster, which was John, I think his name was John MacGyver, was his real actual name, that the actor was playing. The actor's name is Mustafa Shakir, but I thought he was a great villain. And you can't even really label him a villain, because as you learn about the backstory throughout the season, you learn that his motivation is very sound to do what he's trying to do. Obviously, his execution is questionable, and the things he does are not good, but he has a little bit, much like Cottonmouth, but to a lesser degree in terms of impact, has a certain motivation, where Mariah is just continuing to dip down into the darker side of being a criminal and a murderer. Now this will have full spoilers. I'm not going to avoid spoilers in this, because I'm assuming that by this point everybody's seen it. It is a Netflix show. It did premiere Friday. Most people have the weekend to watch the whole series, and obviously I'm guessing most people have seen it. So if you haven't and you don't want to be spoiled, you may not want to sit here for this review. So overall, I thought it was a solid season. What I will say in terms of criticizing the show is that I do feel, and there's a couple of things. The first thing is I do feel that it almost seemed like the show had a hard time deciding who it wanted to embrace as its full-fledged villain. Because so many times you shifted from Mariah to Bushmaster that I kind of started getting I don't want to say a whiplash effect, but you almost were waiting in the wings for watching them almost decide who was going to be the ultimate villain this season. And obviously eventually down the road, as we got past the midpoint, towards the end of the season, you start to see that it's really Mariah that kind of takes center stage as the villain, but almost at a detriment to the Bushmaster, because the Bushmaster at a certain point on the series really took a back seat. You know, if you watch the series, you know that he's taking Nightshade a certain voodoo plant that only grow, well, it doesn't only grow in Jamaica, but the Jamaican soil gives it a certain effect, almost like a high level steroid, which is what allowed him to fight Luke Cage head on. And when you get to the later part of the season, the mid to late part, he almost takes a back seat because he's taking so much nightshade, so he's kind of out of commission for a couple of episodes. And I really think that kind of makes him lose his effect a little bit, so that was hurtful. I think what they did with Claire, while it's understandable because there's rumors circulating that she may not be coming back for any of the series, I thought what started off so strong as a relationship between Luke Cage and Claire, eventually after a couple of episodes in the early going, she takes a complete backseat in terms of just not being on the show the rest of the way, which I also thought hurt because the way that that dynamic started in terms of their relationship and the troubles that they started to find with each other and what things were going on, I thought it was going to be something that continued that would have, I think, played an important role and I think would have been very effective. They just had great chemistry, and these are two characters that have developed a lot of time together, so that makes everything they do obviously believable, number one, but you're also invested in them because of the amount of time that Claire has spent with all these characters, the relationship she's built with Luke Cage, and especially after season 1. It was a little disappointing to see that she kind of took a back seat. And then you have Shades, and Shades is in the whole season. He doesn't drop off. But, when you consider his life of crime, some of the things he did in season 1, and even though Mariah is fantastic as a villain, I would have thought that Shades would have had a bigger role to play in the crime business, considering he was almost like a criminal mentor to Mariah. And it's not to say that he takes a back seat and doesn't do that. He is still very much involved in the everydays of Mariah and Harlem's Paradise and all that. But towards the end, he really shifts into a different direction that I didn't expect. It does make sense from a storytelling perspective. I don't know if it's the direction I would have taken with him right away. If you're planning on doing more seasons, who knows? Maybe they're trying to wrap things up early because Disney's going to be starting their own streaming service, and they'll probably take these characters back. But we'll have to see. Outside of that, those are my three main gripes. I didn't like what they did with Claire. The decision to kind of put front and center who the main villain was took a little too long. At some point, you had two villains, and then one took center stage, and instead of the other one fading back a little bit and playing more of a lesser villain, he literally dropped off the show for like 2 episodes that I thought, considering the actor's performance and his delivery of the things he was doing on the show, I thought it was very hurtful for the show that he more or less disappeared, for 2 episodes. He was on these episodes, but he was more, he was being medicated and all that. One other new character to the show that I liked a lot, and I thought brought a lot of dynamic to the show in terms of developing a relationship with Mariah, was her daughter, and Tilda Johnson, I think her name was. And that was a very interesting, another interesting dynamic to the show because of, like I said, this would be spoilers, so I shouldn't be too afraid to say it, but the way it ends at the show, the way their relationships developed through the season and how her daughter Tilda started to really see what her mother really was. There was a point where her mother tries to rekindle the relationship with them. It seems to be working, and then it just starts to really fall apart as Mariah gets more and more pressured, not only from being captured by the authorities, but also from Bushmaster coming out to try and kill her. She really starts to break down and just completely ruins her relationship with her daughter, telling her that she never loved her and that she couldn't stand to look at her. And yeah, you could understand where Mariah's coming from when you consider what happened to her and how Tilda came to be and how Mariah got pregnant. But obviously that's not Tilda's fault. You know what I mean? It's not the baby's fault. Tilda Johnson's also played by Gabrielle Dennis. It's this gorgeous, gorgeous young woman. Very, very beautiful. And she looks like she's going to have a continued role on the show. We learn at the end when Mariah finally kicks the bucket at the hands of her daughter, who was basically a botanist, a natural. She was a doctor. She studied to be a doctor, but she was into natural medicines and stuff like that. Basically concocted a poison, much like poison ivy, and kissed her mom when her mom was in jail, and she went to visit her. And sometime later, when Luke Cage went to see Mariah in jail, that's when Mariah died because of the poison. Mariah actually left Harlem's Paradise to Luke Cage in the will because she felt that Harlem needed a king. And that's kind of where things get interesting at the end of the season, because Luke Cage seems to have put himself in a very compromising position. Towards the end of the season, he starts going out there and basically making deals, albeit his reasoning is sound, but when he basically starts making deals with other families that did want to infiltrate Harlem at some point, and they never would because of the Stokes. They did for a short period of time at the end, towards the end of the season, when Mariah got incarcerated. Then they started to invade Harlem, and this is what forced Luke Cage to kind of go out there, and instead of fighting, going out there and trying to protect all of Harlem, he basically went around making deals with the devil. This was kind of, I don't want to say directly inspired to him by Shades, but Shades did kind of make a point to let him know that there are kind of other ways to take care of this. So he makes those deals, and before you know it, he's running Harlem's Paradise. The people that worked for Mariah are working for him, like Suge, the lawyer. Misty Knight is not very happy or pleased about it. And while she trusts Luke Cage, you can see that she's already starting to question his integrity. And he tries to reassure her that while she fights crime by the rules of the law, he can do it by his own rules, and that kind of really rubs her the wrong way. So that was very interesting to see that. And then you see Mariah's daughter come into the club towards the end of the scene, and you could tell that she's not happy that he's running the club. So who knows? She might be a villain that he's got to deal with next year. Who knows? Or next season. Obviously, Misty Knight, Simone Masick, was just fantastic as usual. And she did get her arm just like in the comics, so that was great. I thought Mustafa Shakir as the Bushmaster, a.k.a. John MacGyver, was just great. I really liked his character. It's just unfortunate that he started getting a certain point of momentum in the show, and it dipped down because of that absence that I was talking about before. The music in the show is fantastic. At the end of the season, that's Rakim, one of my favorite rappers from the 80s. Used to be used to listen to him all the time. Eric B and Rakim. I don't know if Eric B was there, but that was Rakim rapping. Earlier in the season, you had Lil C's and Faith Evans, who still looks fantastic. Just great music, man. And I was very happy with the season. Again, there were definitely a couple of hiccups. Nothing was perfect. But I can't sit here and say that I didn't enjoy the season as a whole. I really did. It was great. And it's funny, you think about that end, and this is my last thought before I end this video, and, you kind of wonder where Luke Cage is going here, and actually seeing this happen made me think about a line that was said in Batman Dark Knight, when Harvey Dent was having dinner with Bruce Wayne and his Russian girlfriend, and it was Harvey Dent and, Rachel. Harvey Dent said, you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. And that's the kind of feel you get at the end of the season when Luke Cage is sitting at the desk and you hear his father, who's also, I didn't mention that, but his father was also in this season, and it's just a great job by the late actor. I'm trying to remember his name, but he did die earlier this year. Let me see if I can find his name here, because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But, I can't find it here. But he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's got a very distinct voice. And he died in February. They gave a very nice you know, rest in peace at the end of the season. But he's listening to his father narrate, and he's just sitting there, King of Harlem, and I couldn't help but think about that line, because you could see he's not doing things the right way already before he even takes action. He basically, the other criminal families came into Harlem's Paradise, and Luke Cage tells Suge to give them VIP access. And the idea is that Harlem's Paradise is the center of Harlem, and if he's at the center of Harlem, he can kind of see all crime going on around him. The question is whether he's going to utilize his new power for a better, you know, to do the right thing without compromising his integrity too much. And I think that's the key. And that's what made me think about that line by Harvey Dent, because that's how I felt looking at that ending when it ended. So on a side note, real quick before we go, obviously Finn Jones was there as Danny Rand, a.k.a. Iron Fist. Very good change. Very good change. You know, I never was really too bothered about the way he was portrayed in his first season, because I kind of saw it as he was in this world for the first time since he was a kid. And while he was matured maybe spiritually, he wasn't matured for the real world, for what the real world had to offer. And that's kind of how I saw it, where now you see him on this show and he has matured. He is different. He's accommodated to the world that he's in now. But I do think people are going to be very pleased with what they see from Finn Jones this time as Iron Fist. And I think that obviously that's going to carry over into Iron Fist Season 2, and it's only going to make that show better. So I'm looking forward to Iron Fist Season 2. I like the direction they went with him, even in that small dose that you got in Luke Cage Season 2. And even Luke Cage's character acknowledges, hey, man, there's something different about you. And that was kind of just to point out that, hey, we got your message, fans, and we're switching this up. We're going to make some changes. So outside of that, that's it. I thought it was great. What did you guys think of Luke Cage Season 2? Please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Click here to watch more content. Or you can click here to become an E.T.N. patron. Don't forget to leave a comment. Also, make sure you like and share this video. If you want to know when the next video is up, click the notification bell next to the subscribe button. And most of all, make sure to click that subscribe button for regular content.